what is up continues. We'll see what happens. That's kind of new. So hopefully that doesn't continue. But with that being said, we got a lot to discuss today, and I mean a lot. We got to cover. We're just going to preview the results of UFC Singapore, and then there's a whole lot of news to cover, as well as just looking at the Ultimate Fighter finale, as well as UFC 226 coming up soon. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. We got no time to waste. The first fight I wanted to cover, we're not going to go over all of the early prelims. I know a lot of people, some people probably missed this card. It was really early in the morning as it came on 4:30 a.m. Eastern time. But there were still some fun fights on the prelims. But the main fight that was really stands out to me was Teruto Ishihara versus Peter Yan. Teruto Ishihara, Mr. I Love My Beaches, aka Yashabo, taking on a new up-and-comer in the UFC who's making his UFC debut, but I had my eye on him. He was a heavy favorite coming into this fight, and if you looked at his resume, you'd understand why. He was fighting really talented fighters before he got to the UFC, and he, showed that he was on a high-level debut, and the way he was able to win the fight, I mean, keep your eye on him, man. Another guy coming over from the ACB, and he seems to be very talented, so looking forward to his next UFC fight. And then not much to cover on this fight. Li Jingliang came in. He was a favorite, and he looked really good in the fight. It was a stand-up fight as expected. He really tested Daichi Abe's chin in this fight, man. That was one thing I definitely saw in this fight. He was landing good shots all night, outstriking Daichi Abe. And Li Jingliang definitely has knockout power, but Daichi Abe's chin was able to withstand and last until a decision. Li Jingliang went on to win a pretty dominant decision. Next, one of the fights I was actually really interested in seeing, Jessica Rose Clark versus Jessica Evil Eye. This was a good fight. Jessica Eye was able to remain undefeated at flyweight. She got the W over Jessica Rose Clark. Jessica Rose Clark was 2-0 previously in the UFC and in the flyweight division. But one of the reasons that I originally picked Jessica Eye to win the fight was because Jessica Rose Clark, she's talented and she's fought bigger fighters outside of the UFC. But inside the UFC, her competition so far had been girls coming up from strawweight. And now she's taking on Jessica Evil Eye, who really feels like she's at home in this flyweight division. She was fighting in the UFC. She's got a lot of UFC experience, but she was a division up at 135 because this 125 division wasn't there yet in the UFC. Now that it's opened up, Jessica Eye, it feels like she's at home, and she moves to 2-0 at flyweight. She was able to beat Kalinja Faria in her flyweight debut via split decision, and she was able to earn a unanimous decision here over Jess Rose Clark. So it was a good fight. Jessica Eye earned the win, and she's looking to show that she's this is her division. I think she's going to be looking toward maybe, because this is a newer division, she could be looking at a title shot with 1 or 2 more good wins in this division for sure. With her UFC experience and with the newness of this division, how new it is. A lot of these girls are coming from the Ultimate Fighter season 26, that really brought the flyweight division in. So Jessica Eye, 1 or 2 more fights, man, she could be looking at one of Valentina Shevchenko's potential victims. You know what I'm saying? That's really what I mean. This whole top 15, they're all competing and they're high level fighters, but you got Valentina Shevchenko in there. I'm just looking at her like a shark, and the rest of these girls are kind of like food because Valentina Shevchenko is so skilled. And if you want to talk about somebody's this being somebody's home, 125 pounds, we're talking about Valentina Shevchenko. She was fighting at 135 too. Now she's down here, and I think it's time for Valentina to reign in the UFC. So good win by Jessica Rose Clark, but the fights do not get any easier as she continues toward that title shot. So, and Jessica Rose Clark's definitely not an easy fight. In saying that, I'm just saying she's got Valentina to look forward to. So, be careful. You better be working on you know what I'm saying, on your skills, because Valentina's likely next to fight for the title, and we'll see what happens after that. So my nigga Shark Food Valentina, that's what I'm saying, bro. She's a shark up there. I think it's time for her to reign. So, I mean, either one of these girls, whoever won was going to be working toward one of these next title shots. You know what I'm saying? Jessica Rose Clark would have been 3-0. But even Jessica Rose Clark, man, kind of looking like, even if she would have won 3-0 in the division, like, I was like, okay, she could be working toward a title shot. But even though, I'm still keeping in mind, you have Valentina up there. So, it's still going to be dope to fight for the title. But as far as winning the title, I don't know who's going to be doing that from Valentina, and she still got to fight for the title. So, you know, it's a little too soon, but that's kind of how I think a lot of people are looking at it. That's Valentina's division. But what was a great fight, the co-main event of UFC Singapore, Ovin St. Preux versus Tyson Pedro. Holy smokes, that was a great fight. It only lasted a round, but in like the 2 minutes or 3 minutes that it lasted, it was a great fight. Tyson Pedro almost finished Ovin St. Preux. He ended up shooting for one or two ill-advised takedowns. I heard somebody breaking down the fight, and they were saying, like, if he would have just kept the pressure on him instead of shooting for the takedown, he possibly could have finished the fight. But one of the things that stood out to me was he landed a couple crushing blows that looked like they had Ovin St. Preux hurt, and he went for a guillotine. And since Ovin St. Preux was the taller fighter, it was really hard to lock in that guillotine when Ovin St. Preux might have been hurt. It was almost like a situation with Tyron Woodley and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson whenever Tyron Woodley almost finished Wonderboy, but he went for the guillotine, and since Wonderboy was kind of so tall, and you know what I'm saying, it was hard for Tyron to really lock up the guillotine, and he wasn't able to, so he wasn't able to finish the fight. And then Ovin St. Preux, though, he came back, recovered, showed he was why he is one of the most experienced and well-rounded fighters in the UFC, because he's able to not only, you know, strike with the guy. If he gets in trouble, he's able to try and recover by trying to take you down. You know, like we saw Kevin Lee when he was doing the stanky leg. How did he recover? Trying to shoot for a takedown. You know, that's where a lot of guys are able to recover if they're able to get a hold of a guy. You know, to stop from getting finished, to get their get shit back together. So Ovin St. Preux was able to do that, and then ultimately earn the submission over Tyson Pedro that Kimura it was. And I think they announced an armbar, but it was like a Kimura, and he just showed his strength. Like he just fucking he had Tyson Pedro's arm, and he went for it, and he was able to get it. So it was a great fight. It only lasted like 2 minutes, and it was like fight of the night in like 2 minutes. And then we had Donald Cerrone versus Leon Edwards, the main event, of course. Leon Edwards looked amazing in his, I believe, first UFC main event. Beat a UFC veteran, Donald Cerrone, in UFC Singapore. Now Leon Edwards is on a 6-fight winning streak, and he's beat some tough welterweights. I mean, Bilal Muhammad is no joke in the welterweight division. He might not be ranked, but he's a very skilled fighter. Vicente Luque, same thing. So he's beat some tough fighters. Wait, he did beat Bilal Muhammad, right? Am I tripping? Why do I keep saying Bilal Muhammad? That's crazy. If anybody is in Bilal Muhammad's camp that's ever listened like to my last couple videos talking about Leon Edwards, probably like, he didn't fucking beat me. I had him, no, but he has beat some Brian Barberina. Who else did he fight? He fought Kamaru Usman. Okay, but either way, Albert Tumanov, Vicente Luque, he's a very tough fighter. Vicente Luque, I mean, I think that's his only UFC loss. In his last 5 fights, he's beat Nico Price, Chad LaPrice. He beat Bilal Muhammad. Okay, that's where the confusion was coming in. Vicente Luque, that's, you know, so that was just me. He's beat Nico Price. He's beat Bilal Muhammad, and one of his only losses is to Leon Edwards. So Leon Edwards is now. I might have to put these hands on Leon Edwards. He asked for it. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. If Jorge Masvidal is not able to get his hands on either Kamaru Usman or Neil Magny, 2 of the guys he's been calling out. Like it looks like this black guy will cover. So this show's already gonna likely be going for like 2 hours, just off the news, UFC 226 preview and stuff like that. Maybe an hour and a half. So I see you in the chat, but I'm probably gonna be limited going back and forth. I'm not gonna be going back as much because I got so much to cover. Giving share name, where's my She's Yosa L in the chat. What's going on? Alright, so with that being said, he said, I bet he kicked himself in the ass for not keeping his cool and finishing the crucifix. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that looks like what you're trying to say. Cerrone always throws down. Yeah, he always does. This fight had his name all over it, right? Anytime, anywhere, any place. That's Donald Cerrone style. Singapore, who? Leon Edwards, let's do it. And Donald Cerrone had fun before the fight. You know, he's a guy that has fun fighting. So even if he loses, he's still having some fun before the fight, during the fight. You know what I'm saying? He's doing what he loves to do. So, that being said, man, let's jump into this. Khabib Nurmagomedov has confirmed that the UFC is working on a fight versus Conor McGregor, but he's saying, hey, if he's not ready when I'm ready to come back, we could also be looking at Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, you know, the winner of one of them, because they're going to be fighting at UFC Calgary, Poirier and Alvarez, so the winner of them could be getting a title shot, or even GSP, if that's the route the UFC wants to go. But Khabib was just saying he thinks right now that the negotiations are with Conor McGregor. Now, that's no guarantee. We've seen a lot of talk of Conor McGregor and Khabib so far, but hard to get your hopes up. You know what I'm saying? Conor McGregor, we still got to see what happens with his negotiations. His court, I don't think is going to be too much of an issue. His court case, you know, the plea deal, the negotiating a plea deal, I think they'll be good there. But is his demands for his next fight, have they came down? Does he still want a piece of the pie? I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? How's that going? Is he, you know, when is he really going to be coming back? So we'll see what happens, but I do think we'll likely see that fight toward the end of the year. But even if it's not Conor McGregor, hey, we still got some great fights. Possible GSP coming down to lightweight. Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, the winner of that fight, definitely would look good for a title shot against Khabib if Conor McGregor's out. So even if Conor don't come back, well, you know, that would be a great fight, but I mean, you know, it ain't gonna be too big of a deal. Yeah, we'd all love to see Conor McGregor come back, but we got some great fights at lightweight. You know, just from the way that the division's kind of been log jammed as of late, with Conor McGregor as the champion, now Khabib is the champion. We've got a lot of serious contenders down there and guys that are making their way back up for title shots. Even former champion Eddie Alvarez, you know, he's working his way back up to a title shot in the meantime. So we got a lot of contenders down there. If one of these guys, or if Conor McGregor, you know, is too demanding in his negotiations. But his coach, John Kavanagh, is saying that he would bet almost anything that Khabib versus Conor McGregor happens in 2018. So, with that being said, you know, he's a guy with inside information as far as Conor McGregor. He talks to Conor McGregor. He would kind of have a feeling of how things are probably going. So, if he was talking to Conor McGregor and Conor was like, yo, I'll fight Khabib, but the UFC's acting like they ain't trying to pay me. You know, he might be saying, I don't know, you know, he might be hinting toward that, but he's having good feelings that this fight is likely to happen. So that's good to know as far as Conor McGregor negotiations. If you're worried about Conor McGregor's negotiations holding up this fight, this is a good sign from John Kavanagh, Conor McGregor's head coach. This is what he had to say. Yeah, it's the obvious fight. He says, it's the fight I want to see. And he also said, I would almost bet anything this fight happens before the end of the year. I can't imagine it not happening. He said, very soon I'm going to come to USA and begin my training camp. That's what Khabib was saying. And when the UFC gives me the fight, I'm going to come to California and stay at AKA for 9 weeks with my family before the fight, and I'm going to defend my title. So likely this fight, you know, just more signs coming out. I've already did videos on this today, so that we don't have to go too in depth on this. Just a lot of signs pointing toward a potential Conor McGregor Khabib Nurmagomedov fight in the near future. So I know a lot of people are going to be hyped if that fight actually gets announced. When it gets announced, that's going to actually be crazy. That would be insane, like the moment that gets announced. I see Clayton Funky, Bob Cratchit in the building, MMA prediction guru. RIP Conor just got shot by Irish mob boss. You trolling like a mother trucker prediction guru. Carl Jackson said he'll be a fool to fight Khabib after such a long layoff. I mean, Conor McGregor's posted some videos looking good in camp, you know, and to be fair, Khabib's going to be coming off of a layoff as well, but Khabib's not a guy you look at, like, even in his layoff. I'm sure he's still fucking training hard through Ramadan. He's not in a fight camp, but you know, I'm sure he's still fucking doing his thing now that he's the champion to stay prepared. But I'm just saying, if Conor McGregor's getting ready, if he's got his mindset toward coming back to fight, I don't think he's just been sitting on the couch, you know what I'm saying? Every day, like, you know, I'm sure he's doing a lot of extracurricular stuff, and he might not be ready. I'm not sure. I'm just saying, I mean, fighting Khabib at any time is going to suck, but I don't think just coming off of a long layoff is going to be the problem. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think Conor McGregor's just been fucking eating potato chips sitting on the couch, you know, in the meantime. I'm sure he's still been training. He's looked good in some of the training videos we've saw. He's posted pictures even when he's not posted videos of him training throughout this entire time, you know, training grappling. You know what I'm saying? Even after the Floyd Mayweather fight, not too long after that, when there were still talks of a possible Floyd Mayweather-Conor McGregor fight in the UFC, Conor McGregor was posting pictures training and shit like that. So he's been doing a lot of stuff. I'm sure spending a lot of his money, but at the same time, I'm sure he's kind of staying ready. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think Conor's going to have ring rust in that sense. I'm sure he's still been on that Conor McGregor fast program. You know what I'm saying? Getting his cardio up. 22 games says the champ is in the building. Nate Diaz though. Now we got, speaking of Conor McGregor, transitioning to Nate Diaz, man. He was involved in another fight at another event, this time a jiu-jitsu event. If you recall, not too long ago, we had the Clay Guida incident, and where it was Clay Guida's team, and one of Clay Guida's team posted a picture, saying he got hit trying to break up the fight, and there was people were saying Clay Guida's team was like pressing charges and stuff like that on Nate Diaz for that incident and stuff like that. So that was an incident Nate Diaz was already in, and I believe that was at a Combates America MMA card, and he was in the stands. Now Nate Diaz is at a jiu-jitsu event, and he looks like he's putting hands, allegedly, on a fan that was talking trash. Now, this is alleged. There's video of it, though, so, I mean, I don't know who exactly he was putting dick beaters on, but somebody was getting tagged up in the audience just a little bit, allegedly, just to be safe. But there is now video. First, it was just a couple pictures and tweets. Now there's video, and I wish I could play this video, but it's TMZ, so I don't know how that works with YouTube. I'm pretty sure they're like the most strict with their footage. But you can go to MMA Fighting. There, you can just Google Nate Diaz altercation. You'll find the TMZ video if you want to see it. I mean, you just see Nate Diaz throwing a couple. You don't see a lot, but the camera does catch him like throwing one or two shots, and some disgruntled or some disobedient fans. So with that being said, Nate Diaz in another altercation. Looks like he's fighting everywhere but the UFC octagon right about now. And you know what I think this is, man? I think Nate Diaz's trigger finger is itching, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm talking about in the MMA sense. I think this dude, he's been whooping ass his whole life. He ain't been able to get in there, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's because he's waiting on the Conor fight, whether it's because he ain't got the right opponent, whatever the reason is, whether his team's telling him to wait on the Conor fight, Nate Diaz is just fucking itching to whoop some ass, itching to get back into the UFC. So hopefully, man, nothing happens in this situation. I mean, you know how this goes. If you're looked at as a guy with a lot of money and you end up getting in altercations outside of the octagon, people are probably going to be looking to sue you, press charges, and all of that stuff, try and come up off of you. So hopefully that doesn't happen in this situation for Nate Diaz, and he can take this aggression, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people, I mean, for one, I don't know what the people were saying, but I'm just saying it's unfortunate we see Nate Diaz fighting outside of the octagon again when we've been waiting for a while now to see him fighting inside of the octagon. So for two instances in a row, it's like hopefully he'll soon be inside the octagon, and that's what this means. I'm looking at this bright side. Hopefully this just means Nate Diaz can't wait to get back in the octagon, and nothing worst case scenario, he gets sued and he's gonna have to get back in the octagon anyway, because he's gonna need some money if these multiple people sue him for kicking ass outside of the UFC allegedly. But I mean, I would love to see Nate Diaz back in the octagon. And maybe this will get him in there, man. Like, man, maybe he'll realize, man, I'm just been, maybe, it'll fire him up. Like, man, that's what I've been missing. I need to whoop some ass. Like, maybe he'll be, I don't know. I'm just trying to make this look good for Nate Diaz, because it doesn't, to be honest. And I'm a Nate Diaz fan, and at where he's at, I kind of get it. You know what I'm saying? He's made money. Because I look at it this way: when you look at Conor McGregor and why he's been sitting out since Floyd Mayweather's fight, right? It's because you think he's probably spending his money. He made the most money in his life. He made $100 million off of Floyd Mayweather. That's a whole lot of money. Nate Diaz, it's kind of the same to a similar extent. He's been out on a break too. Now, he didn't fight Floyd Mayweather in the meantime, but he did make more money than he's ever made in his life. And he's also potentially looking at another fight like that. So, so that's why I look at it that way. I don't fault a man for trying to make the best career move for him. You can't, if that's going to put food on not just his family, Nick Diaz, I'm sure he shares it with the whole scrap pack. He feeds his family with the money he earned in that Conor McGregor fight. So if that's the best move for Nate Diaz, to wait for the Conor McGregor fight, I get that. Make $10 million instead of just fighting 2 or 3 other dudes in the UFC. That makes sense to me. But at the same time, whenever you're getting in these altercations outside of, the octagon, it's like, man, maybe you should be just whooping some ass. Maybe we can't wait on Conor no much longer, because if you're gonna be whooping on some ass outside of these events, you're gonna start, you know, getting in trouble and stuff like that, and you might be resorting to need to fighting, kind of like a Floyd Mayweather situation. So we'll see what happens. If you want to see the clip of this another altercation with Nate Diaz, you know, you can find it TMZ. There's many places out there. But moving on. We've got an interesting situation going on, man. I never think he's edging Daniel Cormier to the point to where he's about to maybe drop the bombshell. And I've been wanting, you know, the steroid bombshell. Like, yo, you beat me twice, yeah, but come on, man. There's the elephant in the room. Daniel Cormier's kind of been, he hasn't, you know, he's been the better man so far. He hasn't really wanted to drop that bomb. It seems like, look, he's got to get his stuff together. But as of late, man, Jon Jones has been poking at DC on social media, and DC responded. So I covered this, but now Jon Jones has responded again. So just to get everybody caught up to speed, this is where it started. The UFC, they posted, you know, getting ready for UFC 226. I'm sure a lot of people are getting ready for UFC 226, champ versus champ super fight. We got Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis on the card. We got Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega on the card. We got a lot of good fights coming up at UFC 226. And so with this, and with Daniel Cormier challenging for another title, people start to wonder, like, you know, is this going to put him in the conversation for the GOAT? Because really, he's not in there. When you think about the greatest fighter of all time, people talk about Jon Jones. They talk about George St. Pierre. Hell, some people even talk about Conor McGregor before they mention Daniel Cormier. And when you look at what Daniel Cormier's done throughout his career, you know, going undefeated at heavyweight, 13-0, becoming the, you know, the UFC's light heavyweight champion. Only person he ever lost to was Jon Jones. He beat Gustafsson. He beat Rumble Johnson twice. He beat a lot of guys at light heavyweight and defended his belt, you know, like a champion. And now he's moving up again and challenging for the title. So is he in conversation for the GOAT? I say yes. But Jon Jones, it looks like he got irritated with the question. He says, "What have you done for me lately? Let's just be real and stop asking this question." You know what I'm saying? He don't even want to hear the question. He continued to say, if he's in the conversation, does that make me the motherfucking man? And some people do believe that. If I brought my brother in here right now and I said, yo, do you think Daniel Cormier is the GOAT? He'd say no, because Jon Jones kicked him in the head, so Jon Jones is the GOAT. Like, that's literally what he brings up. He tells me this, and he's more of a casual fan. He can't call Daniel Cormier the GOAT because he saw him get kicked in the head, and Jon Jones predicted it, so it was part of a strategy. You know, he said he literally called the shot like 2 years before that. You know, you duck to the left, we're going to take advantage of that. And he said, and Daniel Cormier, you're not going to kick me, you know, you're not going to kick me with that left leg, or whatever he said, so he predicted it. But still, at the same time, the fact that Jon Jones failed the drug test to me still stands out. But people argue it. But with that being said, if he beats Stipe Miocic, I think that's, you know, that's for sure a conversation that has to be had either way. So either way, Jon Jones, you know, he responded when he heard the question asked, and Daniel Cormier, I got my studio producers. They don't see the live light, man. Daniel Cormier, you know, he's going to be fighting Stipe Miocic. That threw me off, but I thought I had his response up right here, but this is Jon Jones' actual Twitter. He continued to go, oh, that's what he said. He took the high road again. He's taking the high road. He said, I'm not going to give Jon Jones the platform, you know, that I have. Right now, Daniel Cormier, he's about to be going on a media run, right, for UFC 226. He's probably going to be on all the biggest shows on this platform, and that might have pissed Jon Jones off. That's why I was bringing this back up. He says, I don't have a platform, DC. That just sounds dumb. Even after years of suspension, I have just as much, if not more, of a platform than you. Every win you get goes on my resume. You know who you dream about at night, and I'm sure your wife knows too. I was like, damn, Jon Jones, you know what I'm saying? He's a little triggered. He says, every win that you get goes on my resume. That's, you know, that's a good line, but I don't know if it's necessarily true, but that's a good line, not gonna lie. But then he said, you know, you dream about it at night, I'm sure your wife knows news. So John Bones, you know, he continued to say, first I thought you were trying to convince the fans I beat you because of performance-enhancing drugs, but now I'm pretty sure you have convinced yourself too. Keep doing that. And good thing for you, next time we fight, I'll be all cleaned up. Let's see you dominate me this time since I cheated the first two. Good luck in your next fight. I've always wanted to be the heavyweight champ. Who's your daddy? So then, just to cap that off, a fan said it would be actually insane if you took both belts from DC. And that's what's made my mind kind of go crazy as an MMA fan. Like, holy smokes. That's why I was talking about John Jones versus DC3. Because could you imagine, and this, a lot would have to happen. DC would, of course, have to get past Stipe Miocic. But could you imagine Daniel Cormier moved up to heavyweight, won the belt. Now he's the heavyweight and light heavyweight champion. And now John Jones comes back. Like, would you be interested in that fight? DC's got both belts. John Jones is coming back. You know what I'm saying? Clearly USADA free. I'm sure they would have to be tested him. Like, I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. What if he came back and like won both belts from DC? All right, but that would be crazy. I would be interested in that fight though. If John Jones came back to fight DC for both belts, that's probably the only way I'd be interested in the third fight. But at the same time, that would be crazy because John Jones, we haven't seen him at heavyweight yet, and these are two dudes. Their rivalry goes longer. I don't know if there's a rivalry longer than this rivalry in MMA that I can think of, man. These two dudes haven't liked each other since I was like in fucking high school, if I'm not mistaken. A long time, man. And now DC making history. John Jones coming back up. I mean, that would be crazy. But yeah, man. John Jones is getting a little personal. And it looks like, we're starting to get to the steroid part, where DC might be bringing it up. Like, all right, dude, I've been taking the high road, but let's be real. The elephant in the room is you failed your drug test. That's why I'm the champion, because you failed your drug test. That's why, this is my platform. I'm fighting for the heavyweight title right now because you failed your drug test. So, and John Jones is like, go ahead and convince yourself. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. I don't know. I picked DC to win the rematch because I kind of thought it was going to be a clean John Jones. And so when John Jones won, I was like, oh, crap. He did it. He's the GOAT. Much respect. He came back, did it. Clean John Jones just beat DC, knocked him out. Then he failed his drug test, and I was like, oh, was he even clean? Like, now I still don't know. So that adds on to potential. I think it'd be a crazy fight. It'd be a big fight, but right now it wouldn't be for a belt or anything. You know what I'm saying? It would just be John Jones returning, both of them returning off of a suspension. John Jones going up to heavyweight. It would be. I would watch the fight, but I don't know what it would really mean like right now. You know what I'm saying? But hey, I would for sure watch it. With that being said, this is a good topic going to off of that. Daniel Cormier, he's on to bigger and better things. Speaking of Brock Lesnar, he's not. He hopes to fight two more times after UFC 226 by March 20th, 2019. Gonna be done at 40. I won't be back. There won't be no jumping around. Or I'm done until I get the next fight. It'll be over. I'm not gonna be doing this anymore. I've said it time and time again that I've lived a great life in sports. I've loved every moment of it. My family has revolved around sports. Not only my family, my wife, Selena, the kids, and on the Helwani show, he said Cormier told Ariel Helwani today on Ariel Helwani's new show, which just debuted, that following his fight with Stipe Miocic at UFC 226, he can squeeze in 2 more fights before retirement, and ideally it would be against John Jones and Brock Lesnar. Now, if those fights were to happen, that would be, a fairy tale ending for DC, of course, because he would have to beat Stipe. You would think, to get the fight with Brock Lesnar. And all of those fights, those would be like huge fights and huge paydays. And one second. My fucking allergies are killing me. Excuse me. But all of those fights would be huge paydays, right? This one's going to be a champion versus champion super fight with Stipe Miocic. Then Brock Lesnar, of course, and then John Jones. That would be like the ultimate redemption fight for DC. And I think that would like be a great way to end his career, win or lose. If I'm DC, I would want to know, can I beat John Jones, like a clean John Jones? Can I do it? I would want to know that because he failed the drug test. That's, as a winner that DC is. I would, and I know he does, I would want that fight back. But the thing is, do the fans want it? So he's going to have to do whatever he can to earn that fight back, and a great step to doing that. And I think the only way he could do that is actually with the win over Stipe Miocic. So DC's got a lot to fight for upcoming at UFC 226, man. A whole lot to fight for. If he loses, who knows what happens, right? He might just go back down to like heavyweight and defend his belt there. He could just do that, you know what I'm saying? Just defend his belt there a couple more times. But if he wins, holy smokes, he could have, John Jones Brock Lesnar. Because if DC loses, I don't even know if, do we even see John Jones? Do we even want to see him versus John Jones 3 at light heavyweight? Or is the only way we even really want to see that fight is if it's at heavyweight? You know what I'm saying? It adds something new to the fight. It'd be interesting, but either way, man, I know if this is going to be a great fight upcoming at UFC 226. I think earlier I was leaning a lot more towards Stipe Miocic, but I think Daniel Cormier has a better chance than a lot of people are probably giving him. Now, he's definitely got a tough task with Stipe Miocic, but his wrestling, his level of wrestling, Daniel Cormier's, and the size advantage that a lot of people are giving Stipe Miocic just because he's a heavyweight, it's not that big of a gap. You know what I'm saying? Especially DC moving up to heavyweight. He's had time, and there's been mixed signals, but I think DC might be planning on staying at heavyweight, especially if he wins this fight. So, I don't know. I think this is going to be a great fight. On top of, I think DC doesn't have as many disadvantages as people might think. He's not going to be as undersized as you think. Oh, heavyweight versus light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Stipe, when he fought Francis Ngannou, yeah, Francis Ngannou came in at like 265, but I think Stipe came in at like 240, 245, something like that. He wasn't even at the max heavyweight limit like that. So, DC, he's going to be coming in. He might be down 10, 20 pounds max, and that's a lot, in a wrestling situation, but DC, I think he's got a better chance than people are giving him. On top of what we just discussed, what he's got to fight for, if he wins, he could. It's kind of like a lottery ticket if he wins this fight. Because if you win this fight, you for sure got another super fight after this. Like, you're fighting one super fight now for DC. And if you win this super fight, it leads to one more super fight. And if you win that super, but if you lose, you're kind of just back to defending your belt as you have been. But right now, he's in the fight of his life, kind of. Definitely the biggest fight of his career, in my opinion. Fighting for the heavyweight belt in the UFC. Yeah, this is going to be crazy. So can't wait for that. And then on top of that card, which we're going to look into more later, it's fucking stacked. You got slugfest on slugfest on slugfest. On top of Brian Ortega versus Max Holloway. So UFC 226 is going to be insane. But before that, we got a little more news to cover before we look at UFC 226. And we got Colby Covington talking to Tyron Woodley, saying he's going to send him to sleep for good. I did a video on this, so we don't have to look into this too much. I just put it out. But really, why I did the video is because, this is the first time I really saw, aside from at Kamaru Usman at the press conference where he was calling him boy, man, I think this is really the first time Colby Covington has came out really saying stuff that people might take as racist. And you might not, but I'm like, oh, shoot, here we go. Get your popcorn popping, because here Colby Covington goes, man. He said, Tyquill, there's nowhere else to run. There's nowhere else to hide. What you going to do now? No more rap album. He keeps talking about, before the end of this stream, we're playing a Tyron Woodley rap. Because Colby keeps telling me to Google that shit. So I got to Google it. I got to. He says, no more rap albums. I know all the people hate me, but if you really want to hate me, go on Google and try to listen to this dude rap. And that's why he's trying to come fight me. That's why he's begging to fight me now, because of his rap album is failing. He's got baby mamas to pay. That dude is a joke, man. His B-list acting career that goes straight to DVD, it is no more. Don't worry, Tyquill. I'm sending you to sleep for good, motherfucker. Colby Covington ramping it up. And that's not super racist, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, that's not Colby Covington. He, in my opinion, he hasn't really said something super racist, but he stereotypes people. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he's kind of doing here. Because to my knowledge, now maybe this is Colby Covington letting out some of that information. He did say Tyron Woodley a while ago. You guys might, and I'm just thinking about this now. And I see my camera's not focused. I don't know why, but it is what it is. I don't really care about that. So I'm blurry. But at the same time, if you guys recall, Colby Covington a while ago said he had, Tyron Woodley had some skeletons in his closet or some shit that he knew, that would ruin Tyron Woodley's, something. He said he knew about some skeletons Tyron Woodley had in his closet. I don't want to put words in his mouth, because I don't know if he said it would ruin Tyron Woodley's career or Tyron Woodley's life, something like that. But he said he had some dirt on Tyron Woodley. Now, this is the first time I've ever heard about Tyron Woodley having some baby mamas and stuff like that. So I don't know if Kobe Covington's just saying that because it's like a black stereotype. You know what I'm saying? Because just being honest, my dad still got child support from 1991. That's fucking facts. I don't know, that resonates with a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying, I don't know if this is Kobe Covington actually revealing something here about Tyron Woodley, or if it's just him talking trash. You know, like when he called Brazilians filthy animals. Oh, Tyron Woodley's probably got some baby mamas out there. You know what I'm saying? So that was interesting to me, and I'm sure Tyron Woodley's not going to take it too kindly when he responds, if he responds to this, but I don't see why he wouldn't. Tyron Woodley, he's heated, man. I want, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm sure we're going to have a whole lot more Kobe Covington and Tyron Woodley to cover in the weeks and weeks to come. You know what I'm saying? So no need to stick on this too long. But I do want to play a Tyron Woodley rap before we get out of here. I really want to hear what that shit. You know what I'm saying? I've been forgetting about it. But Kobe Covington reminded me. Google it. So you know what? I'm about to put it at the end of the queue right now. Tyron Woodley rap. Oops, I put RP. Tyron Woodley rap. Okay. Bet. We got that at the end of the queue. Let's see. New trailer for UFC 226 was cool, said Webb's PK Vids. Forward thinking in the house. Only way DC stays at heavyweight is if he defends versus Jones or Lesnar. Yeah, I mean, Lesnar for DC, that would be a crazy fight. Like, that's where we'd be talking about a size advantage. But still, Lesnar has a size advantage over a lot of guys, right? He'd have a size advantage over Stipe. But DC's game plan, right, is more of wrestling. He's not really known for his power punches. I'm sure DC hits hard, of course, and I'm sure he's going to hit harder at heavyweight. But is he going to be able to knock out Brock Lesnar? Because I don't know if he's going to be able to out-wrestle Brock Lesnar. You know what I'm saying? That would be a crazy fight. But yeah, definitely would be watching for sure. So moving on next, what else we got? Let's see. Forward Thinking also said International Weekend needs a big promo. Best promo since 2014, Cormier Jones 2. Yeah, I haven't saw it yet. I'll have to go check it out after this. The 22 game said Brock doesn't have a good chin. Yet, I mean, I see what you're saying, and also he's been out for a while. You know, there's still a couple advantages Cormier would have, but it's still, man. I would just Daniel Cormier, one of his biggest strengths is his wrestling, and that might be kind of taken away from him in a Brock Lesnar fight. So he would definitely have to show his well-roundedness. That would have to come out in that fight because I don't think he'd be able to rely on his wrestling in that fight. So, moving on though to the next topic, we got Kelvin. Shut up, Prince.